Most entrepreneurs don't start with a fully formed company. Sometimes they start with a problem they can't stop thinking about. Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to The Reluctant Entrepreneur. My guest today, Nathan Gwilliam, is a serial entrepreneur, podcaster, and platform builder. He is widely known as the founder of Adoption.com, a company that he grew from a deeply personal mission to use the internet to help children and families through adoption. Nathan's story is especially interesting because it sits at the intersection of purpose, technology, and entrepreneurship. Adoption.com was not just another website. It was an early example of using the internet to connect people to solve a deeply human problem. Adoption.com was not just another website. It was an early example of using the internet to connect people, solve a deeply human problem, and build trust online at a time when the internet itself was still new to many people. But Nathan's entrepreneurial journey didn't stop there. Today, he is the founder and CEO of PodUp, an all-in-one podcasting platform designed to help entrepreneurs and creators create, grow, and monetize their shows. Rather than forcing podcasters to stitch together separate tools for recording, editing, websites, marketing, and monetization, PodUp brings many of those functions together in a single platform. Nathan is also behind Podcasting Secrets, where he interviews successful podcasters and experts and shares strategies for using podcasting to build credibility, authority, audience, and of course, revenue. That idea is especially important today. Many entrepreneurs spend years building visibility on rented platforms such as social media sites or video channels they don't control. Nathan's work challenges business owners to think differently, not just about getting attention, but about building an audience, a message, and a platform that can create lasting value. So today we'll talk about the journey behind Adoption.com, what it takes to build a company around a mission, how Nathan moved from adoption advocacy to podcasting technology, and why he believes podcasting can be one of the most powerful tools for entrepreneurs who want to build trust, authority, and a platform they truly own. And this all begins right now. Stick around. Nathan, welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're with me today.
Yes, and thank you for that super kind introduction.
Well, it's easy when there's a super kind person on the other end of it. First of all, let's talk about your name, your last name for a second. There's two consonants in a row, and unless it's like TH or ST, I never not quite know how to say it. So in order to get your name right, I watched some of your content where you introduce yourself. And I had to watch about 10 different episodes to catch the very subtle Gwilliam. But it is, if I were to over-exaggerate it, it's Gwilliam or Gwilliam. Is that right?
Yeah, the way you said it, the second way you said it is right. So think of the word Gwen, right? The GW sound, there's other words that say that.
Yeah.
We know how to say Gwen. It's just that same kind of sound.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got it right. And you say it so casually that I almost, every human has expectation bias. So I expected it to be William. And I had to listen very, very carefully. There's a little gun there at the very beginning. So I'm glad I got that right.
Yeah, I do it just to mess everybody up.
Yeah, well, my last name is Conrad with a K, and I spend my entire life going with a K, because they write the C and then they draw a line through, the left side of it to make it a K. I guess we can both thank our dads for that, right? What were you, before we get into your history with Adoption.com and subsequent ventures, what were you doing before all that?
Before Adoption.com,
Yeah.
I was a college student. I went to college. I did my freshman year at BYU in Utah. And then I wanted to be a missionary. And I took 2 years off of school and I went down to Brazil and volunteered down there for no pay. And while I was down in Brazil, I fell in love with these street kids that kept coming up and asking me for money. And as a volunteer college student missionary, my money ran out really fast.
Was this an LDS mission or was this?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And I came back and I vowed to do something to make a lasting difference in the life those kids. There's more than 15 million orphans in the world today.
Wow.
And I came back, and the business landscape had radically changed. Well, during those 2 years I was gone. Before I left, I had never even heard the word internet. One time, I'd never seen the internet. And while I was gone, it exploded. And it felt like this huge opportunity, kind of like homesteading, right? If you could pick your land and you just stayed on it long enough and you did a good job at it, you could own that land. And the internet was kind of that way. If you just kind of picked your niche and you stayed with it and you did a good job of it, you could own that niche on the internet. It was a huge opportunity for everybody.
And so I decided, that was back in the day when you could get a single word URL registered, right? Today, if you were to get cars.com or something small like that, it would cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars if it's even available.
Or $10 million, right?
Or $10 million, yeah.
That's right. They're very expensive today.
Yeah. I was quite fortunate. My day job, I own a company called Aqueous Technologies, and we own aqueoustechnologies.com and aqueoustech.com. We use the tech side, but I also have the long form version of it. But I got those in 1996, and it was available. So I was very surprised. And then a few years ago, I got my name, MikeConrad.com, but I have a feeling that wasn't the first time that was registered. Someone probably forgot to renew it or something, and I snagged it just at the right time. But it amazes me how some people will come up with a URL with dashes and, things that no one's going to get right. Or they go the other way and they just make they make a sentence with no spaces and end it with .com. And it's not the same game anymore. It's the real estate, available real estate and URLs is very limited, particularly ones that can be easily remembered and easily spelled and things like that. So that's quite a feat to get something like adoption.com, as opposed to nathansadoptioncompany.com or something like that.
Can I share with you a story about those early days of domaining? Sure. And how it has to do with entrepreneurship? Okay, so in those early days when you bought MikeConrad.com, there was only one domain name registrar. It was Network Solutions.
Network Solutions,
right?
Yes. I almost every domain I own it's a knee jerk. It's saved. I just go there and buy it, even though I can get it cheaper from a million other companies.
That's right. And back in those early days when you bought that domain name, when you and I were buying, nobody trusted the internet to put their credit card on the internet. And so, and back then when you bought MikeConrad.com, you paid $100, I'm guessing, to register MikeConrad.com. So the way it worked is Network Solutions let you register it on the website, but since you couldn't buy it online, nobody was putting credit cards online, they mailed you an invoice in the mail, and then you had to pay that invoice, and if you didn't pay it within 90 days,
it dropped off.
They took they took the domain name away from you.
Yeah.
So I was a college student dropout who was starting this business, and I was trying to find ways to fund my new company, adoption.com. And I saw this opportunity for arbitrage where you could register, but you didn't have to pay for it for 90 days. And there was really no consequence other than they took the domain name away from you if you didn't. So one of the ways that I helped fund adoption.com in those early days is I went and I registered a whole bunch of domain names at networksolutions.com or netsoul.com. And they sent me the bill. And so then I went and I tried to sell the domain name to the best company, and I had 90 days to do it. And if I could sell it, then I would pay the $100 and then I would flip the domain name. And if I couldn't find a buyer for it, then I let it expire and I didn't pay the $100. And so those early opportunities for arbitrage in a business can provide great opportunities, in an industry like the internet, can provide great opportunities for young upstart companies.
Yeah, now it's ironic. Now you can get a URL for $7 a year,
Yeah.
with some registrars, and which means you can totally cyber squat on anything. You don't have to worry about getting rid of it. You just sit on it for a while. But on the other side, there's not that many cool names left anymore, right? And even the network solutions and all the other registrar companies, if you do register an available name that's a good name, it's not the base rate. I think Network Solutions is $29 a year, I think now, where it's down to $7 in other companies. But if you want to, if for some reason, camera.com was available, unregistered, it would not cost you $29 or $7. They know which names are going to be popular or are popular, and they've adjusted their pricing to reflect that. But that's a pretty good way to turn cyber squatting into a side hustle there. That was pretty clever.
And we generated millions of dollars buying and selling domain names.
Wow.
Can I share with your audience 2 secrets of how they can still find a great domain name today?
Yeah, please.
Without spending an arm and a leg. Okay, so this is my secret of how I still do it. So there's a website called expireddomains.net. And it's a database that has millions and millions and millions of domain names that people have purchased, and then they didn't pay the renewal fee. They let it expire. So it was a good enough domain name that someone registered it, but then they let it drop. And a lot of people did that. Maybe their email address changed and they didn't renew it, or maybe they changed businesses, or they stopped working for a company and they just let it expire. And so there's a lot of good domain names that people have owned for maybe a decade or more, and then they drop off. And there's so many of them. And so you can go into expireddomains.net, you can create a free account, and they have these amazing filters, and you have to use the filters because there's so many domain names. And you put in your keyword that you're looking for, and then they tell you all of the domain names that someone has purchased in the past, but then let expire. And you would be shocked how many of them are there that are available. So I'll tell you of an example this morning. So there was an adoption agency that I was working with this morning, and they focus on open adoption, which is adoptions where kids and the birth moms and the families all know each other. And they all have a relationship for years after the adoption, right? Hopefully forever. And so they're trying to focus on open adoption. So we got in today and we said, okay, what are your best 3 keywords? And so their number 1 keyword for their target audience was adoption. Their second best keyword for their target audience was adoption agency. And their third best keyword was open adoption. So if you put all 3 of those keywords together and you say open adoption agency, you have every single one of your top 3 keywords right in your domain name. And then because they're in the nonprofit space, a .org is probably the best extension for them, right? And so I went to expireddomains.net when I was on with the client during the meeting, and I found probably 15 amazing domain names that have open adoption in them, including openadoptionagency.org was one of those that someone had owned and let expire. Probably the best possible domain name that this adoption agency could use given their focus. And this morning they went in, they registered 12 domain names, including probably the best keyword-rich descriptive domain name that they could have had. So don't give up. Use the right tools that are there. There's also tools where you can put in a keyword and you can get alerted when domain names that have that keyword in it are about to expire. And you can pay a small fee
to kind of reserve it, right? If it expires.
And you can reserve it so that the minute it expires, that they'll go register it for you. And so I do that regularly as well. You can get great domain names. NameJet is one. Dropcatch is another one. but there's great services that will do that for you too as well. So don't give up. Just you have to find a smarter way to do it now.
Yeah. I would love to be a fly on the wall when some executive or some person that's responsible at a corporation to, keep the domain name registered discovers that, oh, shoot, it expired last week. Let's put our credit card in, and it's gone. I would,
that happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, whenever I renew mine, I renew it for like 5 or 10 years, just because I know me. I'll get caught up on something and I'll forget. That's pretty cool. How did the idea you told me that you were in Brazil and you saw, firsthand on your mission trip, you saw the plight of orphans there, which gave you the idea to do something that was, purpose-led. At what point did you begin to believe that this could become a real organization or a business as opposed to just, doing good things for kids and things like that? At what point did that become real in your head?
So I was an entrepreneurship student, and I've always had this, for a long time, I've had this core belief that business can be used as a vehicle to change the world, to make the world a better place. Social innovation, social entrepreneurship. That's just kind of part of my vision of the world. And, I love the companies like Tom's that use business as a vehicle for good. And so that sophomore year when I got back, let's see, actually it was the beginning of my junior year at BYU. So I'd come back for a year, saw the internet. The very first day of classes, I had brand new roommates that I didn't know, and somebody called on the phone. Back in the days when there were like permanent phones there in the apartments, right? Not cell phones.
Landline.
And so that landline, yeah. And so somebody called for my roommate that I didn't know and the caller said, hey, I'm going to take this brand new class called HTML. You should sign up for it. And that was the message for my roommate. Neither the caller didn't sign up for it or take it, and my roommate didn't sign up and take it, but I did, the one that was taking the message. So it was one of those fortuitous moments. And so I signed up for it. And then I took the second level class. So I learned how to build these web pages and got familiar, and I realized I can do this. I can build an internet site. And I was an entrepreneurship student in the honors program at BYU. And one of the honors requirements to graduate with honors is you had to write an honors thesis. And you had to do the thesis within your major. And because I was an entrepreneurship student, according to that requirement, I had to write a thesis about entrepreneurship. And so I went to this department and I said, okay, will you let me do a business plan? Can that count as my thesis? And they'd never approved a student to ever do that before, but they did. And so as I was writing, I really wanted to do this business plan about how to use the internet to help children through adoption. And one day, I never thought of it first. I just was doing research on the competitors, and I saw this little website had been put up at adoption.com. And so I never thought about it before. Without thinking, I just sent an email to the owner and I said, hey, would you sell your domain name? And she responded, and we agreed to a price, and my father gave me a little bit of money, and I bought the domain name.
Wow.
Or he loaned me a little bit of money that I repaid.
That reminds me of like a classic car barn find, when someone opens up this old barn and there's this classic car in there that the owner doesn't really realize what it's worth today. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, I ended up paying $6,000 for that domain name back in 1996. So, I mean, it was a significant amount of money for a college student, but man, that was a great deal. I ended up selling that adoption.com for millions and millions of dollars, after it had been developed.
Yeah. Not a bad investment, not a bad ROI on that $6,000 in 1996. You've talked about seeing children on the streets in Brazil, as we just talked about, and wanting to make a meaningful difference. How much of adoption.com was driven by mission and how much was driven by entrepreneurial opportunity?
That is a great question. I actually think those are one and the same. I think,
Yeah, because you can't really
like
make a difference unless you're successful monetarily, right? There's not much you
right.
can do. Yeah.
It's like picking up a stick. When you pick up a stick, you pick up both sides of the stick. And I worked in adoption for a lot of years, for decades. And I saw people come and go that wanted to create an adoption agency that didn't charge very much money. They would say something like, I want an adoption agency that can help the school teachers and the police officers, right? And that they can afford. And so they would come in and they would price their adoption services at maybe half of what the other adoption agencies were. And they thought they were doing really good for the world. But what ends up happening is you have this law of supply and demand, right? And when your cost is really low, you have really high demand. You have lots of people sign up for your services. So you have lots of people pay you for this discounted rate. But the problem is there's a reason why everybody else in the space is charging this price, is because there's a lot of costs. You've got to pay a lot of lawyers and you've got to pay the social workers and you've got to pay the advertising and marketing fees. There's all these different expenses that are part of an adoption. And so when you charge half of the going market rate, you don't have the money to do the advertising that you need to do. And when somebody comes and sues you, you don't have the money to defend yourself. And when something goes wrong, you don't have the money to give a refund. And you think you're helping the world, but those people go out of business. You get that first lawsuit and you fold. Pretty soon you don't have any money left for advertising. You have all these clients that you've taken money from, and you don't have any money to keep helping them make their dream come true. And you've actually done a disservice to them. You've done a worse job because you took their money and then you weren't able to do their dreams. It's like you stole their dream from them.
Yeah.
So going back to your original question, to change the world and do good, you have to have money. And when you have money, you can do a lot more good for the world.
Yeah, I remember when I first started my company, we sell capital equipment, manufacturing equipment for the electronics industry. And these are expensive machines that we sell. And at first I had, people talk about imposter syndrome. I kind of had that when it came to pricing my product. I was almost embarrassed to charge what I thought it was worth. So we would constantly strive to give discounts and, all the things because I didn't want to fight that battle. And then at some point I realized that I'm not doing my customer a great service by not making much money on a machine, because our machines are capital equipment. The lifespan of the machine is 10 or more years, and the warranty's a year. So we're legally obligated and ethically obligated to support the machine for the first year, all parts and labor and all that. But after that, it's on the customer. But what if we're not around 10 years from now? What if I didn't make enough to be able to adequately support the customer or put money into R&D? Because the electronics industry changed since we started talking 28 minutes ago. So, by us charging a reasonable amount, not a lot of our customers will go, "You're just trying to gouge us. You're trying to make a lot of money." Like, well, yeah, but that's not the reason we do that. We do it so that we're going to be around. We're securing your future as much as we're securing ours, because you invested in this, $100,000 technology. You don't want to lose that money because we can't afford to send you a part, because we don't have any money. So, in order to do anything good for the world, substantial at scale, there needs to be a cash flow coming in for that. And I think a lot of people kind of mix up. You're either in it for the good or you're in it for the money. No. The money is the vehicle to do the good. And I think a lot of founders think those two are opposite polarities, and I really don't think they are. I think they're, like you said, they're necessary to accomplish anything in business. And Once we realized that, then the price was the price. The price is what it needed to be in order to ensure our future, our team's future, and, in many cases, the industry's future. When you were developing this idea at BYU, did you already see yourself as an entrepreneur, or did entrepreneurship become the vehicle for solving the problem?
It's a great question. I don't know when I made that switch in my mind. I explored a lot of different fields. I didn't go to college thinking I was going to be an entrepreneur. I thought I wanted to be the next Andrew Lloyd Webber and create musical theater productions. And
Wow.
And then for a while, I thought I wanted to be an accountant, and then I wanted to be an attorney. And I tried these different things, and I guess I just found one that resonated with me, that worked for me.
Yeah, it was very personal. Adoption, speaking of, is a deeply emotional and personal subject. How did that change the responsibility you felt as a founder? I mean, if you're selling shoes, okay, you failed. No one's going to get heartbroken over that beyond, oh man, I never got my, Air Jordans. But you can't really fail and not affect deeply personally families and children.
Yeah.
So did that weigh heavy on you? Did it cause you to be extremely cautious in how you built the company and maybe the risks that you contemplated taking in scaling it?
Well, I wouldn't say that I was extremely cautious, and that's the risks that I took. I took risks that I would not take today, and I didn't have a lot of resources to put into it. So I probably took a lot more risk than I should have. And but I did take this spiritual stewardship very seriously. And I actually think that spiritual stewardship can play a role in any business that we choose to do, or essentially any business we choose to do, even if it's shoes, right? You gave that as an example. But Tom's Shoes, for example, they had the buy one, give one, and they gave away so many shoes to people that didn't have shoes. And I think there's a huge spiritual component to clothing the naked and helping people have shoes to walk to work. And I think even if you're in a field that is generally perceived as secular, you can still make a huge difference for good. I believe that almost everything in life has a spiritual dimension to it.
Yeah, I agree. Whether one is spiritual or not, I always refer metaphorically, in this case, to the business gods. And I do that just as, to be a little bit humorous and to describe this. For several years, I started my company with zero business acumen. I had a good technical background. I was able to design the products that we still sell today. But I didn't know anything about business. And I remember thinking back then, this is back in 92, well, Nathan, I don't know anything about business, but I got the hard stuff down. I got the tech down. So how hard can business be, Nathan? Come on, I'm a smart guy. I'll figure it out. Famous last words. And I didn't know anything about it. And I made every bonehead mistake any business founder could possibly make repeatedly. And
Yeah.
I have this metaphor in my head that there's a panel of 5 business gods, and they're looking down at me. And 4 of them say, we got to kill this guy, the business. This is pathetic. We keep giving him all these clues. We keep giving him guidance. He's ignoring everything. He's marching to the beat of his own drummer. Let's let him go. And then the one business god says, well, 2 reasons not to. A, it's quite funny to watch how stupid he is. It is a good laugh. And B, they're doing good things for the world. We're a very responsible, very green company. And the business we started was replacing a very non-green, actually very toxic. That's the reason that part of the business shut down, because it was using a chemical that became banned by the world. And we changed the paradigm. We came up with a way to do it without any of those chemicals. And so we are doing really good things for the world, and we're very philanthropic. And whether it's supporting a local Little League team or making the world greener, saving resources, things like that. So at some point, I do think purpose-driven companies, whether it's a spiritual component, a true spiritual God component, or metaphorically spiritual component, I do think they have a leg up over companies that are just commerce, just trading goods and services for money. I think that if you are a purpose-driven company, a purpose-led company, and you're doing something that will ultimately make the world a better place, I think the chance of survival, whether it's a godly reason or karma reason or whatever someone wants to subscribe to, that makes sense in their world, I think the odds are better. And I don't think the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has any stats that they publish on, purpose-inspired businesses versus none. But my experience is I should have been out of business 1,000 times before now. I've had my business now for 34 years. And I haven't made mistakes like that for 34 years. But the first decade was filled with them. And by all measure, you and I should not be having this conversation today, at least not me as a company founder. I would have been an anecdote at business school. That's where I belonged. And I think that the fact that we were doing good things for the world, that we were doing good things for the environment, that we were philanthropic in every way we could back in those days, that covered up a lot of sins of the business process. And I don't know if you feel that way, but I do think that somehow we have this advantage, and we don't do it for the advantage. I mean, it's not like linear. You can't say we do this good thing and this will happen. But all I know is that we should not have survived by every measure, by every KPI any business person can look at, and we did. And I think some of it, at least, was to do with that. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it resonates on a couple of different levels. So number one, there's some what I would call temporal benefits to being purpose-driven. And for example, I think you get better employees and you keep better employees when they feel like they're part of something meaningful, right? That's one example of it. And there's customers that prefer supporting companies that have a great story and they care about them and they care about the communities, and when they support the Little League team like you were talking about. So I think there's temporal benefits that come that maybe aren't the best reason to do it, but there's definitely a lot of those benefits. But I really resonate with what you said. There's 1,000 times you should have gone out of business. And I feel the same way. There are so many times where I could not have done this on my own. Period. No question. 100%.
Full stop.
I know that. Yeah. And there are times I should have failed and I would have failed if it would have been just me. And I know that the only reason I've survived was because of the hand of God that was helping me. And I feel that when our hearts are focused on doing something more than just making a buck, when we are also trying to make the world a better place, when we're trying to also help other people, when we're trying to do what I feel is God's work and lift and love and serve and do good, I think we merit, when we're on the Lord's errand, we merit the Lord's help. And so much, I believe in this so much that when I started my most recent company, PodUp, which is our podcasting software company, I made a commitment that 10% of all of the profits that my company, my holding company, pulled out of this business would go to charitable causes, and especially some specific causes that we cared about. And I didn't do that just to get God's help. I did that because I care about these causes and I want to help the causes and I want to do the good. And I have faith and believe that because I'm prioritizing doing his work, that I will receive his help. Because I know I can't do it by myself.
Yeah, that's good insight. What were some of the early challenges you had in building trust online? I mentioned in the intro that adoption's deeply personal. You started at a time when the internet was not necessarily trustworthy. Ironically, it's more trustworthy today, even though there's more bad actors out there today. But back then, it was just naivety, ignorance. They didn't know. No one would put a credit card down, as you said. What were some of the challenges in building that trust, particularly something as personal and as life-changing as adoption? How did you overcome that?
Yeah. So I obviously made a lot of mistakes, and I'm so far from perfect, but a lot of it came over time. It came from like having the domain name adoption.com helped a lot. That gave us credibility.
Yeah.
We had the business philosophy that we wanted to give things away for free. It's the freemium model, right? I think it's the best marketing strategy in the world. We wanted to give things away for free, and then we made money on something else, right? And so we would give away adoption content. We would give away adoption community. We would give away photo listings of kids waiting to be adopted. We gave away registries of adoptees and birth parents that wanted to be reunited. So we focused on giving things away first. And then when we gave things away first, we had lots of content. And the content helped build our authority and credibility. And then because we gave a lot away for free, we had lots of traffic. And you'd go to Google and you'd type adoption and it would be first. And so then that gave us a lot of credibility.
Authentically and first, not just SEO manipulation first. You were the go-to.
That's right. Because we were giving away so much content and we had so much traffic and we were adoption.com, we were number one. And for so many years. And that was such a blessing for us. And that gave us credibility. When you called people and said, I'm with adoption.com, I was instantly credible. And I'll tell you a story that's an example of this. I remember the first time I ever went to a National Council for Adoption conference, a trade show, the leading trade show of adoption agencies in America. And the first time I went, they put us at this little table that was kind of outside of the event, and a few people stopped by, and they had no idea we were credible or who we were and didn't trust us. And we were nobodies. We were outsiders. And then after a few years, they let us start being inside the event and presenting or doing our booth, and they trusted us. And then after a few years, they had me be the keynote speaker of their event because they realized I was the thought leader and I knew what I was talking about with adoption and technology and the internet. And then they invited me to be on their board of directors.
Wow.
And then they invited me to be on their executive committee of the board of directors that ran the company, the board of directors of the company. And it some of it just takes time. It's just taking the next right step and doing the next right thing and trying to do what you say you're going to do and trying to do the right thing and just build those relationships, year after year.
Well, it sounds like you practiced something that we stumbled into a number of years ago. Our advertising, I've said this many times on the show, so my audience is going to go, oh my God, he's talking about this again. But our advertising used to be very braggadocious. We're the best, everyone else sucks. And we'd throw out all our specs on our equipment and all that because that's what we thought everyone did. If you want to sell stuff, you talk about your stuff. And then we got tired of the sound of our own voice through a bunch of circumstances. We'd won obscene amounts of awards, which turns out you just kind of buy the awards. But, we think no one knows that, but everyone knows that. And then we switched one instantly, like cold turkey, to a concept I coined. It turned out I coined it, but it was already coined by many others, conscious marketing, where we don't talk about what we do. We create content, educational content, that educates our industry into what's going wrong and why it's going wrong and what the best practice mitigation strategies are for that. And then at some point that leads to us and then we can start talking about our equipment, but it makes no sense to talk about that now because they don't understand our equipment solves a problem they don't even realize they have, right? So we switched over to education. We stopped exhibiting at trade shows and my gosh, we were high-tech carnies. We had waterfalls and magicians and video games and all this stuff that It's not part of our business model, but it was just to get people in, bait. And we switched over to creating content, non-commercial, highly technical webinars, podcasts on the subject of reliability, because that's what our equipment delivers, is increased reliability. Instead of going to a trade show downstairs where we would be a carny on the exhibit floor, I started going upstairs to the technical sessions and speaking. And now I speak around the world regularly on the subject of reliability, and I never even show a picture of what we do. They know what we do. We've been in business a long time. But I think that creating content that produces value allows you to become something, and the word, I'm not comfortable with the word because it's been hijacked by too many people, but you become an influencer. Not a TikTok, twerky, Kardashian type influencer, but an authority-based influencer. And when they know your primary objective in that moment is not to sell, it's to educate and provide value through content, you become a trusted resource.
Yeah.
They know that.
You become a thought leader.
Exactly. We don't have a call to action in any of our material that we produce. None. Because we're a huge industry, trillions of dollars, but it's a relatively small industry in terms of the number of players. And people know where to find us. And because we're not constantly asking for the business, ask for the close, all these salespeople, ask for the close. We don't do that. So we're safe. And I get emails and direct messages and regularly from people who see our content asking me my advice on a problem we have nothing to do with. It's not part of our specific space. But I'm a safe go-to because I'll find the information. I'll hook them up with someone who is a subject matter expert in that. But the point is, I've been able not through magic tricks or sleight of hand or smoke and mirrors. I've been able to create authority in my space that I'm trusted, that my primary goal is educate. Love to sell you something someday, but that's not what I'm thinking of in that moment. There's a time for that, just not then. And that's worked so well for us. We haven't run a paid ad or sent an email campaign for the purpose of selling equipment, or exhibited at a trade show for the purpose of selling equipment in almost a decade. And
wow,
our sales have just, the rate of, we grow a little bit every year, but the rate of growth started skyrocketing after we stopped doing that. And I've now, with some hindsight, come to believe that all of our obnoxious selling, we did get good sales, we did get, decent growth, but I think that was in spite of our efforts, not because of our efforts. We would have got that anyway. And because we solved the problem. And the people who understood the problem knew we were a solution. The problem that we had was we weren't getting customers that didn't understand the problem. They were just masking it, band-aiding it. Once we educated and educated the industry on what this problem is, why it's happening, the conditions that make it happen, and the best practice mitigation strategies to eliminate that problem, we got a whole untapped audience and customer base that we never had before. And in addition to that, we started attracting much, much, much higher caliber customers because these were customers
definitely
seeking a problem. They came to us as a partnership in solving the problem. And we went from transactional to relational. And I'm sure you see that. Well, obviously you must see that just because of the line of, when you were in the adoption business, you must have seen that because it is deeply personal. But if you're selling a commodity item, it's difficult to think this is a personal sale, although everything is personal at the end of the day. But I think to get the initial reaction, to get people to notice you and to respect you, you have to relate on a personal basis and be afraid and not be afraid to not ask for the order. Educate. Orders will come.
That's right.
Looking back, what was the hardest leadership lesson you learned while building adoption.com? I jokingly say regularly, and it's just a joke, that, I would have the perfect business if it wasn't for customers, vendors, and employees. It'd be perfect. But humans kind of are squirrely. Looking back, did you have any issues with leadership and people as you were building adoption?
Oh, for sure. And I failed so many times. I think the first lesson that I messed up on, that I should have done better, is believing in myself. I think as a young entrepreneur, I didn't believe in myself, and I thought I needed to hire people to do things that I didn't believe in myself to do. And I came to know that in many of those, I was the best one. And that doesn't mean you're not supposed to build a team and work yourself out of a job. But I think a lot of times entrepreneurs are too quick to hire someone and push the responsibility to that person. And I think instead, the entrepreneur often needs to figure it out and get it working and prove it, and then train and hire the person to take it over. And I think I was too quick to not believe in myself.
Wow. Let's switch over to content creation. That's something you do well. I've seen many of your videos. Today, a lot of your work focuses on helping people create and grow and monetize platforms that they own. What do you mean by a platform they own, as opposed to, the traditional YouTube, Vimeo, TikTok, whatever, God forbid TikTok, but whatever platform that people are putting their stuff on?
Yeah. Let me tell you a story to explain this, so you can feel it, not just hear it logically. So I was working for this company. I was their chief revenue officer for a year, and we were the fourth largest Facebook app. I added $5 million of revenue in this first year for them, and they were built on the Facebook platform. What do you think Facebook? They became the fourth largest Facebook app, 90 million app installs. Wow. What do you think Facebook did when they realized there was this app that 90 million of their users wanted to?
I can almost guarantee they created one on their own. They built it into the platform. Yeah.
They built it into the platform. That's exactly what they did. They built the functionality of the platform. And then what do you think they did once that functionality was built into the platform?
Delisted the apps. Kicked them off the marketplace.
They removed these installations where people had put the app on their main pages and made it really hard for the app to contact their users. And that business did not own the land. They built a skyscraper on rented land.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't have the stability, and they lost their business. They ended up selling it, but it was for a fraction of what it had been worth before.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. So at that company, there was an intern named John, and John, as an intern, when he left that Facebook app company, he created a little venture called Scrap Trap. It's a little plastic device that you put on your kitchen counter, and you cut up your fruits and your vegetables, and you scrape them into the Scrap Trap, and then you just throw it away. Right? That's all it was for. Was to throw away the scraps from your kitchen counters. Simple device, simple purpose. John was making $110 million a year.
Wow.
Selling his Scrap Trap. $90 million of that was coming from Amazon. And what do you think Amazon did when they realized this young kid was selling a simple plastic device and making more than $90 million a year on their platform?
Sounds like an Amazon basic product.
It's exactly what it was. And they went to China or wherever, they made the product, they put the product on the site. Then once their product was on the site, what do you think they did?
Oh, they took the other one off, or
that's exactly
it showed up last in the searches.
Well, that's what they did first, and they dropped
and then
the results, and then they dropped him.
Yeah.
And he built his platform or he built his skyscraper on land he didn't own. He did not own his platform. And so think about what John could have done, right? When he was making all this money and making all these sales, he could have had like a recipe community for people that love being in the kitchen, or a newsletter with cool kitchen gadgets and innovation, right? And so everybody that bought his Scrap Trap he could have got into his community or his newsletter or whatever, and then they became his, right? Where he could reach out to them and have direct relationships with them. Then if Amazon had removed his product, he still would have had those relationships, right? Yeah. He wouldn't have lost the businesses, and he could have gone and found the next product and sold the next product directly to those people. So that's why it's so important. You've got to have the stability and the relationships with those customers so that you can have something. The platforms will always make decisions in the best interest of their shareholders, right? They're not going to necessarily make the decisions in the best interest of their creators. Yeah. And so you've got to make the decisions that are in the best interest of you.
You cite a couple of examples. I had one several years ago. If you wanted to, you couldn't schedule a post on LinkedIn. You either posted it or you didn't post it. It was live the moment you posted it.
Yeah.
And so I had a subscription with a app that would allow me to schedule. You basically loaded everything in the app, and the app would then post it on the date and time you posted it. And that was $20, $30 a month. And then one day, the option to schedule went on there. I'm sure that app all but disappeared. It probably took a couple of years for people to realize that there was an alternative that was included in the LinkedIn platform. But yeah, the same thing happened. With PodUp, your company, you've built an all-in-one platform for podcasters, which is really interesting. What problem were you seeing in the podcasting space that made you think there's just got to be a better way?
So when I was selling my adoption.com business back in 2019, I signed up for a coaching program with a guy named Russell Brunson. I think Russell's the best digital marketer of our generation. And Russell made me a promise. He said, if I would publish every day for a year, I would be financially free. So I decided to take him up on that promise, and I created a show. And my expertise was digital monetization. So I created a show about all the different ways to make money with digital strategies. And I published every day for a year. And it kicked my butt. It was so hard because it wasn't just, it was audio, video, social, blogs, newsletters, all of that, website. And I got about 3 months into this, and I realized that I needed more than 30 different technologies. And I realized that those technologies cost almost $2,000 a month. And I realized that those technologies didn't integrate hardly at all together. I was like duct taping them together. And you had to download these huge files from one and then upload it to the other one. And it just took so much time and effort. Even after, booking my guests and recording my guests and editing my guests, I still had to pay someone like 4 hours every day just to do all the other things that had to be done with the episodes. And one day in frustration, I was just sitting down with my coworkers, and I could see what Shopify had done, right? Shopify had brought together all of the different tools in the e-commerce space. And there were more than 100 different tools that were integrated in one platform. And they didn't have the best tools, but because they were integrated together and they were available for one reasonable fee, they gave entrepreneurs everything they needed to create a venture around e-commerce. And Shopify became a $200 billion company with that aggregation strategy. And I could see that someone was going to do that in the podcasting space. And someone was going to make billions of dollars doing it. And I just kind of said to myself, well, then I should be that somebody. Someone's going to do it. That was my aha moment. Yeah. And so I luckily I had sold 3 ventures. And so I took some capital and I self-funded it for the first year and a half and hired a bunch of talented developers. And we just started building this. And we now have 74 different tools that are integrated into one platform. We have what we feel is the best podcasting platform on the planet. And It has tools from recording studios like this one that we're in, to editing studios, from publishing tools to marketing tools to monetization tools. If you want to add a course to your show, you can. If you want to add e-commerce to your show, you can. If you want to add coaching to your show, you can, right? It's got all these different ways to make money. And we are constantly growing. We're just about to roll out our new membership tool, and we're just about ready to roll out our new testimonials tool where your users can record testimonials, and then it's an affiliate tool where they share it and then they can make money by sharing the testimonial videos. And, we now have the users in the system that are now asking for the features, and we're building those as fast as we can. So that's the problem we're solving is making it cost less, making all the tools integrated into one platform like Shopify, making it take a fraction of the time. We have so many cool AI features built in this. I'll just share with you one AI feature we have.
Yeah.
It's called the repurposer. So after you record a video, you can go in and you can push a button when all your settings are set, and it will go create like 20 different pieces of content for you automatically. It'll write your blog posts for you. It'll make your short videos for you. It'll
convert them to vertical and create them to vertical and recognize the parts of the conversation that would be interesting.
Yeah, and even when it creates the short videos, it'll add your captions to it, and it'll add your logo to it, and it'll remove the filler words, and it'll remove the extra silence, and it'll improve the audio. Like, it just does so much of it for you.
Yeah.
The software saves you at least 50% of your time, I believe. Yeah. Anyways, so that's what we're doing, is we're just making it faster, easier, and cheaper, so that the podcasters are not spending all of their time just producing their show. And then they can focus on other things like monetization and growth. We're trying to stop pod fade. Pod fade is happening because people went into podcasting thinking they were going to be able to make some money here, right? But what happened is it's just taking way more time and effort than they were thinking, and they're making a lot less money than they were thinking. So we're making it faster, cheaper, easier to do it, so it takes less. And then we're giving them all of these monetization tools so they make more money. And so all of a sudden, it's worth it to podcast, and you don't have to pod fade.
Yeah. Sounds like it's solving the death by 1,000 apps scenario that you get with a lot of content creation. Through Podcasting Secrets, which I believe is your podcast, what patterns have you seen among people who turn a podcast into a real business asset? Are there patterns that you can recognize?
Yeah, so you're asking what are some of the best ways to make money, to make a venture out of your podcast. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great question. Okay, so let me tell you about a few of my favorites. There are so many. I've written an ebook that has 24 different strategies to monetize a podcast. And you can go over to podup.com and you can get that. One of my favorites I call sponsored episodes. And I think sponsored episodes are so much better than advertising. With advertising, people don't trust you. 96% of people don't trust ads. So instead, you let people pay to be a guest on your show. And they still have to come on, they still have to give value, they still have to be a thought leader. It's not just an infomercial. But you have them pay to be the guest. Because they're the guest, they're seen as credible and thought leaders, and credibility from your show flows through to them. And it actually helps them a lot more than just being an untrusted ad on your show. So it's a win-win for both of them. And then they're willing to pay you a lot more because they were able to pay to be a guest on your show. The second one that I really like, I'm a huge fan of recurring revenue. Instead of having to make your sales again every single month, build something that's generating you money every single month and that you can count on. And so we are just about to roll out our membership tool. The membership tool allows you to create a little membership community where people can subscribe, pay some kind of monthly fee, and then they can participate in a community, they can get access to education, they can do group coaching or one-on-one coaching. They can get gated content. There's so many different things that you can do inside that community and then charge a recurring fee for it. And I think that's one of the best ways currently to monetize your podcast. The next one that I I love, and this one's been working really well for me lately, is a high ticket sale. So you come up with something that you charge a substantial amount of money for. So for us, for example, we started having a lot of businesses that came to us and said, okay, well, let me step back. When we went to market, we thought our primary market was going to be podcasters, existing podcasters and content creators, which it is, and that's who buys our software. But we started having a lot of businesses that came to us and said, I know I need a podcast, but I just don't have time. Can I just record the episode and you just do everything for me? And it was shocking how many business, like almost every business, that's what they wanted. And so we opened an office in Jaipur, India, and we have 50 people in that office now. And now businesses come to us and they record their episodes, and we have this amazing team of people that will build their website and schedule their guests and edit their videos and write their blog posts and publish it and market it and help them develop their monetization and book them on other shows. We do 40 different services for podcasters. And so we've developed this service that we call Pod Allies, PODALLIES. You go to podallies.com. And we do a ridiculous service for people. They could not hire someone for minimum wage in the US to do what we do for these people. And we do a really good job of it. We guarantee the traffic that they get off of their show. And so we now have this high ticket sale that we have, this done for you podcasting service. And so now on Podcasting Secrets, my show, I can promote my Pod Ally service, and I can invite my potential clients as guests onto my show. And so from the relationships I build with the guests, then a lot of them ask about my services, and I have a chance to explain it to them as someone that they now trust me because they've been a guest on my show. So that's a highly effective way to sell a high ticket funnel. And then, like you were saying, I give away all the content on Podcasting Secrets about podcasting, the secrets and the strategies and the tips. And then a lot of people listen to the show and they come to trust me, know me, and then they schedule with me already wanting to buy the service.
Yeah.
So
that's
terrific.
Another
great strategy.
We're almost out of time, but I do want to sneak in two last questions. For business owners who are not natural performers, and I'll put performers for my listening audience, performers in air quotes, why can podcasting still be an effective credibility building tool, even if they're not great on camera or don't think they're great on camera or microphone?
Yeah, I get this question from almost every single client. Almost every single company doesn't feel like every single CEO, every single host at the beginning doesn't feel like they're an expert. But here's the thing. When you invite other industry leading experts on your show and you're having these conversations week after week, it's like a university education on that topic. You're learning from the best industry players. And by the end of that first year, you will become one of the industry leading experts in that niche. And because you're having the conversations with these experts and leaders and you're adding value to those conversations, people are going to see you as an expert by association, and then you'll become. So even if you're not, go do it for a year and you'll be that.
Yeah, that's good advice. Kind of the Nike thing. Just do it.
Yeah.
It'll come. Fill the dreams. Build it, they will come. How did you define success way back when you first started Adoption.com? How did you define success then, and how do you define it today?
I think if we go back to that initial story that motivated me, I wanted to help children find loving, permanent homes. I wanted to do good in the world. And I guess a second dimension, I want to do good in the world and do God's work. I wanted to be His hands to lift. And I think I see it the same way today. Maybe it's a little more complicated, and I have a family now, and I want to be a good father and provider and husband. But I think it's the same core goal is let's do God's work. Let's lift others. Let's love others. Let's make the world a better place. I think it's the same core motivation.
That's great. You stuck with it. Yeah, that's the first solid piece of evidence of being authentic is you haven't changed off your core mission, which is quite inspiring. Nathan Gwilliam, thank you so much for the generosity of your time and the sage advice that you've given me and my audience on the subject of podcasting and building a business and all of that. For my listeners or viewers who want to get more information on PodUp and a link also to the podcast, if you're watching this on YouTube, look down here, my little rented platform. If you're watching this down here, where it says see more, click that, and I'll get you URLs direct to his website and his podcast. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, also go to that podcast app. That information will be there as well. Nathan, thanks for doing everything you do. You're quite inspiring, and continued success in your mission. I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you. May I say one last thing?
Please.
And for those of you that are listening, if you are grateful for what Mike does, for all of this time and effort that he puts into this Reluctant Entrepreneur podcast, one of the best ways you can say thank you to him is you can go to whatever channel it is that you're watching or listening to this on, and go leave a 5-star rating for him, and go comment on it and leave a review for him, and comment and say what resonated about the show. As you participate and comment, like, and share, and rate and review, it helps more people to find the show and helps him expand his reach and his mission that he's trying to accomplish.
Thank you. Boy, I just want to capture that and play it at the end of every podcast. That's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate those kind words. And the same advice to my audience, just reverse who's given it. Do the same for Nathan's podcast as well, Podcasting Secrets, and all of the stuff that he creates. So Nathan, thank you. It's been a joy. It's been inspirational, and I hope our paths cross again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, here's some final thoughts. Nathan's story is a reminder that some businesses begin not with a market analysis, but with a burden. Adoption.com started with a desire to help solve a human problem, and then became a platform that used technology, trust, and entrepreneurship to connect people in a meaningful way. His journey also highlights a lesson every entrepreneur should pay attention to. Platforms matter. Whether you're building a platform around adoption, education, podcasting, or any other mission, the audience and relationships you build are among your most valuable assets. But if they live only on platforms you don't control, they're never fully yours. Nathan's story challenges us to think bigger than visibility. The real question is not whether people can find us, it's whether we're building something useful, trustworthy, and lasting enough that people want to come back. Now, that is a wrap. Thanks for being part of our Reluctant Entrepreneur family. We've been very busy recording future episodes with fascinating guests, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. If you're an entrepreneur or know someone who would make a great guest, we would love to hear from you. Visit reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com, where you can apply or recommend a guest, or just learn more about the show. And of course, a couple of shameless plugs. I've started a new series under the Reluctant Entrepreneur brand. The new series is called Reluctant Lessons, where businesses went wrong. On this series, we dig into high-profile business failures and the story behind it all. So far, we've profiled Rubbermaid, Kodak, Blockbuster, BlackBerry, DeLorean Motor Company, with many more to come. Check those and other episodes out on this channel. And if you're interested in my book, The Reluctant Entrepreneur, Anatomy of a Business Startup from Uncertainty to Unstoppable, it's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon, and as an audiobook on both Audible and Amazon. And to everyone listening or watching, if you find yourself stepping into entrepreneurship, whether by choice or by circumstance, remember this: Sometimes the path we never planned becomes the journey we were meant to take. Thank you all so much for being here. I truly appreciate all of you, and I'll see you again soon.